Today. If you would please stand with me. John, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve, will you pray first, please?
Father, we thank you for your goodness and your abundant blessings. We thank you for this day. We ask you to continue to bless our club, bless our membership drives coming up, bless our Christmas party, parade. Let all of our efforts be blessed by you. We ask you to help us in growth, help us in our service to the community and to others. We give you praise. We ask you to bless us through our bodies. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Okay, in honor of Veterans Day today, let's sing My Country Is Free. And I'm expecting you all to go for it.
I like that one.
My
Country is of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
Good job.
That was a good choice, Nelson. Okay. I don't have any birthdays or club anniversaries or wedding anniversaries unless someone wants to admit to one. Although there was one really big one this month. Does anybody have a guess as to whose it is or what it is? Yes, Cassandra. It's ours, the club's. It's our 75th anniversary. This club met for the very first time 75 years ago on November 1st, 1940. And they were chartered on the 25th, so I think they're all.
And I was not there.
And Nelson was not there. You didn't lead singing that day?
But you did have relatives.
I did have relatives, yes.
Okay, with that, we are getting ready to celebrate the big 75th, but since it's so close to Christmas, we just decided to do them all together. So on December the 14th, on Monday, instead of having a regular Rotary meeting that day, we're going to skip Rotary that day and have our meeting that evening upstairs here at Line. You'll see some sign-ups coming around later on, but just mark your calendars for that. And also, in conjunction with that, we're going to have some special speakers. Our main speaker for the evening that night is going to be Dr. Bob Warner from Jonesboro. And, excuse me, there's going to be lots of awards and different things going on. On your tables is going to be kind of a fun thing that we're going to do. I put out a who's who sheet. Feel free to take those home with you. I want you to really think about them and bring them back to me. You don't have to put your name on them. I don't have to know who voted for who. But fill those out and bring them back to me. We're going to have some fun with that evening. And also, if there's anyone in the club that wants to say anything that evening, please let me know. If you have a story you want to tell, if you have some history that you want to let the club know about, if there's anything that you want to talk about that night, please let me know so that I can get you scheduled in on for a slot that evening. Okay. Johnny, are you ready?
Yeah, right. Well, whoever stole my Rotary Friends Forever list, stand up. It's not in the folder, Madam President. So somebody's going to have heck to pay today. You know, we Rotarians sometimes tell a sergeant at arms maybe politically a little incorrect stories, but I don't think this will offend anyone. Maybe. Disregard, guess, what I'm going to say. The Lone Ranger in Tonto rode into town on a hot, dusty Texas afternoon, went to the saloon, and ordered a cold sarsaparilla. They were sitting down at the bar having their drink, and in walked a cowpoke who said, "Who owns the white horse out front?" Lone Ranger turned around and said, "That's my horse." "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, sir, it looks to me like your horse is suffering from heat exhaustion and about to die." So the Lone Ranger and Tonto rushed outside. Sure enough, there was Silver. Oh man, he was in bad shape. So they untied him, walked him over under a tree. Tonto brought over 2 buckets of water. They poured one on him and let him have a drink out of the other. The Lone Ranger said to Tonto, "Tonto, you run around Silver a bunch and stir up some wind. That'll help cool him the rest of the way down." And he said, "I'm going back inside and finish my sarsaparilla." A few minutes later, somebody came into the bar, another tall cowboy, and said, "Who owns the horse, the white horse outside under the tree?" Ranger turned around and said, "What in the world is wrong with him now?" He said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with your horse, but you left your engine running." Is that all right? Is there anyone here that I haven't picked on for an occupational report who would like to tell us something about you and your family and your job, Dale Cole? Well, last he dressed up as a banker on Halloween. You don't even have to stand up.
Dale Cole, Chairman and CEO of First Community Bank. Family, Dale and I have been married now for 40, let me think a minute,
She's not here.
47 years. 2 children, Jonathan and Catherine, 2 grandchildren, Jayla and Sophia. They're both 9 years old.
Thank you, Madam President.
My bad, Johnny.
Well, it's been-
I have a joke, let's see if I can tell it right. I heard this last, and by the way, I want to thank, Kurt's not here, but I want to thank him for filling in for me last week while several of us were at the funeral. But Steve and I heard a joke last week at the funeral, and I wanted to tell it, if I can tell it right. Steve might have to help me. There was an accident, an auto accident with a truck. And, hang on, I'll tell it later. I'm not even going to. I'll have to think about it. Okay. Yeah, that was it. Kurt's not here today to do our secretary's report, but I see that we have 2 students. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
My name's Amanda Pillow, and I'm a junior in Batesville High School. I'm Keely James. I'm a Batesville High School student, and I'm a student council also, and I'm a junior.
And I don't see anybody else today. Brenda, do you have anything you want to mention?
Yeah, 2 things. The dictionary's been ordered to be passed out to schools, and the other thing is we have a new date for the highway cleanup, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, Sunday, November the 22nd, 2 to 4. Put that on the calendar.
Sunday, November 22nd, 2 to 4. Highway cleanup.
Someone may have already cleaned up, so it won't be that name.
Yes, a very important factor. It has been observed that there are already trash bags on the side of the highway, so this should be an easy cleanup for us. Somebody's already done the job ahead of us, so just wanted to
Okay,
mention
great.
that. Good point.
Good, that's good to know. Ken, do you have anything that we need to talk about?
No report.
We're good.
No report to
All
the
right.
city up to,
Well, I'm going to thank Donna Cole today for being our door grader. And it looks like Kathy Drew is up next week. Okay, Christmas parade is November the 30th. Remember to bring candy, which it looks like you guys are doing a wonderful job. It's all on sale right now if you can still get Halloween candy. So just keep bringing that in. We had a board meeting today. And there are a couple of things I need you guys to vote on very quickly for me. As you know, Carter has resigned as president-elect for now. He's going to bump that back a few years and go in behind Barrett Moore. In his place, Steve Martins has graciously agreed to take his place. And with that, we wanted Carter to kind of try to stay on the board so that he could keep up with what's going on and continue to grow as a Rotarian and learn the things that are on the board and the things that it is that we can do. And so Donna has decided to give up her place as board member so that Carter could take that position on so that he could stay on the board. Right now, what I need you guys to do is to vote. And I'm just going to say right now, if you vote against it, that means you just nominated yourself. So, do I have all those in favor? Please say aye. Aye. Anyone against it? Great, thank you very much. So effective today, Steve Martins is now our new president-elect, who will come in behind me July 1st, and Carter Ford is going to be my There I am passing an envelope around that we received a week or so ago from the RI Foundation. They are entering their 37th annual float in the Rose Bowl Parade. And they are looking for donations from the clubs to help support this cause. So there's an envelope going around. If you could put $1 in it. They requested that we all do $1.50, but if you could put $1 or $2 in it, just stick that in that envelope and bring it back to me, and we'll make sure that they get it. Today, well, backing up just a hair, on the board meeting, we did accept the resignation of Brittany DeVasier. Brittany has moved to Cersei, I believe, and is no longer with our club. She was also the programs chair this month. So that is why you have been seeing me scramble so much, because I've just kind of come unglued all at once. But Lou Ann has graciously taken Dawn's place, her husband, who does all the special stuff that Steve's in his class, the martial arts and the things like that. He was supposed to be our speaker today, but he backed up and took Sam's place, and Sam Hummelstein had to have surgery. So Luann has graciously come in today to take his spot. So this is working out really good for me so far. But if y'all would, please give Luann a big welcome.
I will tell you, I have some good news and some bad news about taking Dawn's place. The first thing is, anyone who is in here who has ever passed your securities test, you know that there are regulations that Mr. Cole make banking look like easy as far as regulations. It is crazy. One of the first things that I asked when I came in is, can we get a sign-in list? And Amanda says that she has the roll that I can keep. But I have to have a record of everybody that I speak in front of. And every single presentation I do has to be approved before I can do it. Now, the bad news of that is that it means that my presentation most likely is not going to be quite as exciting as Dawn's presentation, because it's just a little bit duller when you have to jump through hoops to get approval for it. But the good news is I will cause absolutely no one in here any pain today. So I'm not going to be having anybody come up here and do any kind of moves on them or anything like that. I also have to tell you, since Dawn's not in the room, I'll tell on him a little bit. People who meet Dawn frequently see someone who's a little bit intimidating, a little bit imposing, but I get to see him at home. And people don't know that he is very compassionate, especially against people who can't take care of themselves. And a couple of years ago, y'all remember when over on West Side, the older couple had the home invasion, where somebody broke in, roughed them up, robbed them. So that night, we're looking at the paper, and Don's reading the paper, and he goes, "Oh man, I can't believe this." And I said, "What is it?" So he read the article to me, and I said, "Oh, that's terrible." And he goes, "I know, why can't that happen to me?" And I was like, I might actually be here without you. And he goes, "Well, that's why you have the alarm on." But he's like thinking in his head, why do they pick on people that can't take care of themselves, when I would love the opportunity to practice on them just a little bit. So, good news, bad news. I'm not going to hurt you, but it probably won't be as exciting as Dawn is excited. Okay, the last time that I was here, I looked around and I saw people that, and girls, you do not fall into this category, and a few other ones don't, but I looked around and saw a lot of people that were close to my age. And so when I volunteered to be the speaker, I started thinking, what is it that people our age need to start looking for? And that's the reason that I chose the presentation today, just so that you know how my thought process was on that, because we have a ton of different things that we can talk about in finance. And also, another little story about Dawn. We went to Cersei to meet our daughter for dinner one night recently, and she was going to be late, and there was a furniture store next door, and I go, Dawn, I'm going to run over to the furniture store and see if I can find a picture for my office. And he reluctantly was dragged along, and he came up to the front of the store, and he goes, hey, you got to come back here and look at this. And I said, what is it? He goes, it is 2 recliners that are together, and they have this little shelf between them, which would be perfect for my reading glasses and the remote. And then all of a sudden he stopped and he goes, that makes me sound so old. And I don't even care. I'm so excited about this recliner. So, taking all of that into consideration, I decided to talk about long-term care today, because if it is something that you have not yet thought about, it's going to be something that you'll need to think about at some point in the fairly near future. Okay, I have a clicker here, which, speaking of reading glasses. Okay, just a little bit about Thrive. I worked for 5 very, very rewarding years at First Community Bank, and I loved that organization. And just a couple of months ago, I chose to do something totally different and went to work for Thrivent Financial. And First Community is a great bank, Mr. Cole. And it's a good place to work, and I have a great number of friends there. But I felt like that I wanted to do something that always combined my faith and my job. I wanted it to be a part of what I did every day. So I went to work for Thrivent, and this is a doodle that every single one of the people in my organization are familiar with, because we're a Christian member organization and we help people to use their money wisely. And what we think that does in turn is it helps people to live generously, and then that helps us to help our families, our communities, and to do the same sort of things that Rotary does. Oops, wrong way. Okay, just a little bit about Thrivent. We're over 100 years old. A lot of people in the South have never heard about it, because up until about 10 years ago, it was exclusive to Lutherans. And about 10 years ago, they changed that part of their charter and opened it up to all Christians. When I went to Minnesota for training, it was pretty interesting that I tried to think. I think that I knew maybe 5 Lutherans before I went to Minnesota. I think there were probably 5 of us in my meeting that weren't Lutheran, so it was just an interesting little mix. But it has been a great opportunity for Christians to be able to be involved in this. It's membership owned with 2.4 million members. It's 335 on the Fortune 500 list. Actually, that's going up a point since that May 14. We have $1 billion, 5.4 in assets. 7.6 billion in surplus, so if everything had to be paid out today, there would be at least that much left. We, as a group, have volunteered 10.7 million hours, which I also think is something that y'all are the great thing about Rotary is the amount of time that you volunteer. And we donated 209.8 million to help others. And there's some of our ratings. And so I won't bore y'all with that, but that just tells you a little bit about our organization. I'm Luann Gregory. If anybody knows, if you have your insurance license, you have to have your insurance license on everything that you do, and there's mine, and I've already told you about the reason that I'm with this organization. Okay, so now let's talk about long-term care. Okay, except for the, well, no, go ahead. Everybody in here, if you will stand up. Well, I learned this from a preacher. It keeps people from going to sleep when you don't have really, really good titillating information. Okay, you can stand over here. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Every third person is going to stay standing. So 1, 2, I think y'all said 3. You stay standing. 1, 2, 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 3. You stay standing. Wait, you weren't in that count. 1, 2, 3. You stay standing. 1, 2, 3. You stay standing. 1, 2, 3. You stay standing. And then you can sit. even though it's just okay, now, here's what we know. How many people in here are looking forward to getting to that point in your life where you have to worry about someone else helping take care of you? Zero. Nobody wants to get to that point. Nobody ever wants to talk about this. Okay, the 1 out of 3 people that are standing are the people that will need some sort of long-term care in your life, period. That's the statistic. And we always think that means it's going to be somebody else that's going to need that. But the bottom line is, it's kind of roll of the dice. None of us ever know when we're going to have a stroke. None of us ever know when we're going to fall and break something or something that's going to happen to us. That's just the way it is. Y'all can sit down. Thank y'all. Okay, so what is long-term care? It's an extended care strategy, and really it's important to have that kind of strategy. It's not just about your finances, it's not just about your future. A lot of it has to do with your family. An article that I read before I even started in this business made me go, ooh, that really makes me think. I have 2 daughters, and it says, really pay attention to who your daughters marry, because that person may be helping change your diaper. And I was totally appalled by that. And then I started the screening process of every time that, our girls brought somebody home, I'd be like, ugh, I don't know about that. But that's the reality of what you have to look at as we age, are the things that change. I know you're looking at this like, ugh, I know, me too. So you have to think about long-term care, not just in relation to how it's going to affect us, but how it's going to affect our family and the people that end up caring for us. Okay, there are basically 3 levels of long-term care, and hopefully not one person in this room is ever going to get to that point that I just talked about. There is personal care, there's intermediate care, and there's skilled care, and there can be multiple settings. I was very privileged to sit with Polly, and she actually is in one of those categories where you're in assisted living. Exactly, and I will tell you that when I've met people that went there to visit, many of them said, I don't want to wait until retirement, I want to go there now, because it's a pretty cool place to live. A lot of good stuff. I kind of would like somebody to, do cleanup and maintenance around my house for me, so that's a great way. My mom is kind of in one of those cares. She's 86, and she told me the other day, she said, I realized, even though she's incredibly active, she said, I realized that I wouldn't be able to stay here out in the country on a farm if I didn't have help. And then there are the third type of category, are the people who need constant care. And so that's the 3 ways that long-term care helps. Okay, the way that you're determined whether you qualify for long-term care is that you qualify for needing help with one of these 6 things, or you've just gotten a diagnosis of ADL, or what is the Lou Gehrig's disease? Yes. That is an automatic, and so is Alzheimer's diagnosis. Those 2 are automatic diagnoses for that. But for anyone who doesn't qualify in that area, you have to meet the qualifications. You have to have trouble with bathing by yourself, dressing, transferring. And I never really thought about what that meant until I met a paramedic a few days ago. And he was talking about that his job is such an interesting job because a lot of the calls that they get called on are not to help someone who needs to be transported to the hospital, to the emergency room. A lot of those people are saying, I couldn't get from my wheelchair to the bed. And he said, if there is an emergency, what that means is that he is out on another call because he's helping to transfer this person from their wheelchair or from a chair to the bed. And he said they're really nice people, and basically what it boils down to is they don't think that they have any other option because they can't afford to go somewhere to give them good care. And they're trying to stay in the home. And long-term care insurance follows all of those things. It gives you help in the home. It gives you help if you need to go to assisted living, or if you're to the point you can go to a nursing home. Okay, now, good news and bad news about this. This says that the national average for the cost of nursing home care in the United States is $83,000. we live in Arkansas, and it's not quite that much. It's only 73. So, just for a second, I want you to think about your finances, your assets, where you are right now, and calculate in your mind how long those assets would last if you have to have long-term care at $73,000 a year. And if you have more assets than, you did that for years and years and years, and you have plenty of assets to take care of that, is that where you want your assets to go? Now, really interesting, some of the conversations that I've had and the personalities, you get all sorts of answers when you start asking people about their personal. You ask somebody whether they have good life insurance, and sometimes they'll go, well, I don't really need life insurance. My wife is very attractive, and if something happens to me, I'm sure that she'll remarry. I'm not kidding. That is actually something that someone has said. And I responded, I'm not sure that this was real helpful, but I responded and said, yeah, but she's not getting any younger. Unless you die in the next 10 years, her prime years are gone. But really, you either plan on depending on your family, you depend on relying on government programs, you depend on using your income or your savings, or you have long-term care insurance. And those are the four ways that one of those things is going to happen if you need long-term care. I'm sorry, I saw you yawning. I know it's not the most titillating information in the world. Okay, so if you do that, if you have to have someone who helps take care of you, it can start out with being a little bit of help, and that's a labor of love, and that's the people that love you and they want to do the things for you. But that can very, very quickly become something that becomes a labor and a hardship. And also now, think about your situation. How many of you or your children, if you're at the age where you're retired, how many of your children could quit their full-time jobs in order to help take care of you? Or if you're not retired, could you quit your full-time job to help take care of your aging parent? And even if you can afford to do that, what does that do for your Social Security and how you retire in a few years? Government programs have a lot of things, and I will tell you, I told Mr. Cole this when he and I talked about my career change. Passing the Series 7 was monstrously hard, but it wasn't nearly as frightening as finding out the information about what happens to you when you get old. Medicare does not pay very well. I don't know if y'all know that yet or not, but it is not the top of the line health care. And there are a lot of stipulations about what it actually can pay for and will pay for you. Also, it's a joint state program. So if you move from state to state, that might change. And Arkansas is a very unique one. I'm going to see if it's the next. I might come back to this one, but I'm going to look at one other thing. No, that's not it. I passed it somehow. Oh, pool of money. Right here it is. Yeah, there it is. A pool of money. Arkansas is one of the few states, it's a growing number of states, but they're a state that has a pool of money. And basically, if you have long-term care, the state says whatever the value of that policy is, we'll set aside a pool of money for you, and we won't touch that much of your assets. So even if your long-term care insurance runs out, we're still going to protect whatever assets that is. So let's say that you got a long-term care insurance policy, and it was considered to be worth $350,000. The state of Arkansas, because you pre-planned, would not touch $350,000 of your money in order for you to become Medicaid qualified and start paying that. And this is not a diss at all to the nursing homes. I am very impressed with the job that they do. But basically, the bottom line is this. Nursing homes are going to get paid. It doesn't matter whether you pay them, it doesn't matter whether your insurance pays them, or it doesn't matter whether your assets pay them. They're going to get the money or the state. Okay, so best thing is buy long-term health care whenever you're young and you can afford it and you're healthy. I talked to somebody last week who came in and said, I was talking to her about something else, and she said, I need to talk with you about long-term care for my dad. He's just gotten an Alzheimer's diagnosis, and I said, I'm so sorry, but you can't get that once you have a diagnosis. Once you've met those 2 of 6 qualifiers, you no longer qualify for it. So look at it before you get to that point, I guess is what I'm saying. And then consider what it is that's important to you. Consider what it's going to mean for your family when you need long-term care. Consider what it's going to mean for your assets, and really take a look at what's available for you. And you're going to have to develop some sort of strategy, because this is another thing that I've learned that y'all probably all know. If you don't have an exit strategy, and all of us are going to exit, if you don't have an exit strategy, the government will have an exit strategy for you, and it generally is not in your heir's best interest. In my insurance class, one of the guys goes, do you know what it means to die intestate? He said the most important word there is state, because if you die without a will, the state's going to determine what happens to your money and your assets. Okay, so I don't know time-wise. Okay, but I will tell y'all this. I'm a little bit like a preacher. Our preacher said, you know what that clock at the back of the wall means? Absolutely nothing. But I will say, if y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
If you have a long-term care and you want to be cared for at home, what are the qualifiers for that?
The qualifiers are the same, 2 of the 6. So if you want to be cared for at home and you have trouble transporting from one to another, like from a chair to the bed, if you're having problems with that without falling and having difficulties, you have trouble bathing, you have trouble dressing, any of those things, any of those 6 qualifiers still qualify for the in-home care. And I would say, I don't know about y'all, but most people, that's what they want. They want to be able to stay in their home if at all possible. And getting the kind of long-term care insurance that you make sure has that as a possibility is what you really want to look for when you're looking at policies. Okay, any other questions? Okay, have you got one? Okay, go ahead. Time's up then, huh? Okay, I promise I still won't hurt anybody, and I thank y'all very much for letting me come and speak with y'all today.
As you know, Leanne, because you've been here several times, we're doing a book program, and we're going to donate Old Bear and his cub. And it says, this book is donated on behalf of Louis and Gregory, Direct Financial, speaking to the Director of Batesville on November 9th, 2015. Thank you. And if you don't mind, will you draw our meeting ticket for today?
No pressure at all.
The pot is up to $582.
It says Louis and Gregory.
Oh, it does. That was funny. 595 065.
Seriously, you call off your Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Turn around the other way.
You can tell them. Allie has something that she wants to tell everybody too. Our Rotary Club is going to be growing by one more.
All right.
It's not a king. Well, it is. Kind of. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby in April.
Yes.
So congratulations.
All right, we'll keep drawing for the Rotary.
That was awesome.
Rotary. For the Joker. I think I remember my joke now. Let me try this one more time. Okay, so there's an accident with a big truck, and it is a Roman noodles truck. And of course, you know, when the truck wrecks, they have to get rid of everything inside it, so the company lost $48. I know, I'm not a good joke teller. I'm sorry, I apologize. Okay, let's remember highway cleanup on Sunday, November 22nd at 2 o'clock. Does anybody have anything else for the good of Rotary? Jacob?
For those who bought Boy Scout popcorn, I've got it with me, so meet me after the meeting with the popcorn.
Great, okay. All right, anybody else? Okay, we'll end as we always do, the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Number 1,
Is it the truth?
number 2,
Fair to all concerned?
number 3,
Will it